Welcome to this episode of Better Life Today. I'm Jeanette Stark, and my very special guest today has a deep passion for children. He is the Executive Director of Sparrow Clubs USA, Matt Sampson.
Hi,
Welcome.
Jeanette. Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction.
You're very welcome. It's so good to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. It's a pleasure.
How have you been?
I've been fantastic. A lot of great things are happening, and there's a lot of reasons to have a lot of joy right now.
That's true.
I'm good.
Sometimes we have to look for the joy.
That is true,
there.
and it's been difficult this past year, but it's there.
Yeah.
You got to find it. Yeah.
I met Matt several years ago, and I'll be honest, the first time we spoke, he made me cry. So I'm hoping just putting that out there today that it won't happen. So I have tissues ready. Matt, for viewers watching today that may not be familiar with Sparrow Clubs, tell me what it is.
Yeah, well, Sparrow Clubs, first and foremost, is all about compassion. And if you want to get technical about it, Sparrow Clubs is a youth-based, service-based nonprofit organization. We have two goals. One is to help children in medical need and their families, but the other bigger goal is about impacting youth culture from the inside out. We're really trying to compel students of all ages in our schools, public and private, toward compassion, toward kindness, toward service, so that they can experience the power of those things in their lives and their ability to make a difference in the lives of others. And we partner with families with children in medical need to work with us and their children become a catalyst for that change.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful program.
Yeah, this organization has just changed my life in very significant ways, and it's been an honor to see the impact that it's making on lives throughout the Valley and throughout the state of Oregon and beyond.
When did it start? When did the organization start?
So the organization started in the mid-90s. The organization was founded in 1995, but the event that kicked everything off, that was the catalyst for the organization, started in 1992.
Tell me about it.
So I will. It's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
In 1992, it seems like ages ago, but there was a little boy. His name was Michael Leland, and he was 9 months old, and he was diagnosed with leukemia. And it was so advanced by the time they caught it that doctors told his parents that he needed a bone marrow transplant to save his life. And they didn't have a lot of time. It had to be done in a matter of several weeks. Well, Michael's father, his name was Jeff. Jeff was a middle school teacher. And Michael's mother, her name is Christy, and she was a stay-at-home mom. They had 4 kids together. Michael was the youngest at this point in time. And so they jumped into action, and then they got even more bad news. Things were different. Things worked different in the medical community back then in the hospital system, and the Lelands were told that okay, we can do this bone marrow transplant, but it's going to be over $200,000, and we need $175,000 deposit before we can move forward.
Wow.
So what do you do with that? Well, they submitted everything to their insurance, and Jeff had just started this new job at this middle school, and so they had a year waiting period on this policy, and so they got a letter back within a couple weeks denying all coverage. So this is a situation that this family is in. They have no insurance coverage, they don't have the $200,000, and their baby boy has a matter of weeks to get a procedure that could save his life. So they don't know what they're going to do. They literally needed a miracle. Well, their miracle came, and this is the fun part of the story. Their miracle came in a very surprising form. I already mentioned Jeff was a middle school teacher at a school up in Washington, suburb of Seattle, Kirkland. And the school was Kamaikan Junior High, and about 1,000 students, and there was one boy in the school, and he was the most picked on, made fun of kid in the entire school. His name was Damien. Every day Damien went to school, he was bullied, he was harassed for the way that he looked, he didn't have very many friends, but he had a heart of gold. And not a lot of people knew that because they didn't give him a chance, they didn't get past his physical appearance. He was, like I said, he was bullied every day. He was in one of Jeff's classes. Jeff actually, one of the classes he taught was an adaptive PE class. And Damien was transferred into that class because he was being picked on so bad in the typical PE class. And as soon as Damien got transferred into that class, he became a helper to these kids, kids with cerebral palsy and kids with different physical disabilities. He would be the kid that would push them around the track in their wheelchairs and get down on the wrestling mats with them and help them stretch their limbs. He was just a very nice, very special kid. And Jeff knew this, but nobody else really did. Well, to make a long story short, one day Jeff was in his office after school and the phone rings. And he answers it, and it's Damien's mom on the end of the line. And she says, "Mr. Leland, my son Damien is in your class. He told me what's going on with your son, and he wants to do everything he can to help. He's at the bank right now. He made me drive him to the bank. He's pulled out all of his money, and he's demanding that I drive him to the school to give it to you. We're just making sure that you're still there." So Jeff is dumbfounded. He doesn't know what to say. He's like, he tries to politely decline, and she goes, "No, we're coming. Please don't leave." Click, hangs up the phone. Well, Jeff stays there, and about 15 minutes later, Damien marches into that office, followed by his mom, and he walks right up to Jeff, and he says, "Mr. Leland, don't make a big deal out of this, okay? But you're my friend, and I know what's going on with your son, and I want to do everything I can to help." And he opens up his hand, and there's $60, 12 crumpled $5 bills, and he just puts it in Jeff's hand. Wow. Jeff immediately starts crying. Who wouldn't, right?
Right.
And he gives Damien a huge hug. He knows that this kid literally just gave him everything he had. He knows Damien's situation. He knows he doesn't come from a home with a lot of money. He knows that this kid, Jeff has told me, he said, it was $60, but it felt like $1 million because I knew the situation behind the gift. And so he hugs Damien, sends him out of the office, and Damien walks out that day, head held high, doesn't tell a soul what he's done. Jeff is staring at this $60 of compassion and love, tears streaming down his face. He says, "I have to tell somebody what just happened." And so he does. He tells his friend Steve, who's the principal. Well, the two of them are so blown away by this that they start spreading the story around everywhere. By the next day, this entire school knew about it. Again, about 1,000 kids, plus staff and everyone. By the end of that next day, fundraisers had started. Money started coming in. There was a literal pile of money building on the principal's desk. Kids were going door to door in their neighborhood saying, "We have this teacher, and he has this son, and he has leukemia, and he needs a bone marrow transplant, and we're going to save his life. Will you give us your bottles and cans? Will you let us wash your car? Will you let us wash your dog? Just put us to work. We will do anything that we can to help. We're going to save this kid's life." And Jeanette, the enthusiasm of these kids, middle school kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, was so contagious that it started to spread through the community. News channels started doing stories on it. Businesses started getting involved. Businesses are writing checks, starting up funds. This wave of compassion just started to spread through this whole area. Other schools are getting involved, calling the school saying, how can we help as well? Our students want to do this. Long story short, in under 4 weeks, these kids, inspired by Damien, rallied an entire community to raise over $227,000. And it was money that paid cash for the transplant that saved Michael's life.
Wow.
Again, that was in 1992. Now it's 2021. Michael Leland lives in Redmond, Oregon. He's close to 30 years old. He's married. He's an amazing young man, and he literally has dedicated his life to allowing his story to be told and to helping others to pay that forward.
Incredible.
Right?
And I think of Damien saying, "Please don't make a big deal out of
right,
this."
yeah.
But a big deal indeed.
Yes, extremely a big deal. And the beautiful thing is that, yes, Michael's life was saved, but the impact that it made on all these kids that got involved.
Yeah.
These kids, that was a defining moment in their life because they did something that made a lasting difference. And Damien, a funny story that's kind of a side note to this. At the end of the year, once this had all taken place, the end of the year they had an assembly that year, end of the year awards assembly. And Damien is the kind of kid, he wasn't going to get an award for much. You know, he didn't have great grades, he wasn't athletic. And so he's at this assembly. Well, unbeknownst to him, Jeff Leland had created a brand new award that year called the Character Award. And his plans were to award it to Damien in front of the entire school at the end of the year. And so he gets up on stage, the moment comes, and he announces, this year we have a special award. It's the Character Award, and I'm pleased to announce that the first ever Character Award is going to my friend Damien Sharkey. And Jeff said that when he said that, Damien's sitting clear up in the bleachers at the very top. He has no idea this is coming. His head pops up and he kind of looks around. And Jeff says, "Come on down here to the stage." And so Damien starts walking down, and as soon as his feet hit the floor, Jeff said that entire gym just exploded in a standing ovation. I get misty-eyed just talking about it. Cheering, applauding, chanting, "Damien, Damien." The outcast had become the hero. It's not because he scored a winning touchdown. It's not because he was the prom king. It was because he showed compassion, and he acted in kindness, and he acted in selflessness, and that inspired this entire school more than anything else would have. And so he receives his award, and he's in the halls afterwards, and it's chaos. You know how it is in high schools after assemblies. And Jeff is kind of monitoring the door, and he sees Damien trying to make his way through the crowd, and he's red-faced, and he's saying, "Mr. Leland, Mr. Leland," and he's trying to make his way to him, and he finally gets to him, and Jeff says, "Damien, are you okay?" He says, "Am I okay? I'm amazing. You wouldn't believe how many girls are talking to me right now." So we laugh about that, and it's like, yeah, Damien's life changed, but on a serious note, his life took off in a different direction after that. You know, he experienced purpose, he experienced value, and today our kids there's so many messages that try to tell our kids, that try to convince them that the only way they have value is if they have money, or as if they have some great skill, or some outward thing that defines who they are. And part of the reason we exist is to blast holes in those lies, and to tell kids, no, you're valuable because of who you are. You're valuable just as you are. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to do anything special. You have value. Who you are right now in this moment, you matter. Yeah. And when we present this program to students, we tell them that, and then we give them a practical, hands-on, real-world opportunity to prove that point.
And after the break, we'll talk more about that. Let me ask you quickly, though, Damien, where is he today? Do you know?
So sad part of the story, several years later, Damien ended up passing away. But his spirit is alive, and his spirit and that act that he did way back in the 90s continues to be the inspiration for what we do to this day.
What a legacy to leave.
A legacy, that's the right word to use.
How many children have been impacted since then? How many sparrows?
So since its inception in 1995, Sparrow Clubs USA has adopted over 1,300 sparrows. Impacted millions of students toward compassion and service, and almost $8 million has been raised by kids for kids.
My goodness.
Incredible, right?
I can't wait to hear more. Well, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk some more with Matt Sampson. He is the executive director for Sparrow Clubs USA. It's an exciting and impactful organization and program, empowering kids and touching lives. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Better Life Broadcasting is a viewer-supported Christian media ministry that offers streaming programming via apps on various devices. Please visit blbn.org to support Better Life or to get more information. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hi there, welcome back to Better Life Today. My special guest today is Matt Sampson. Matt is the executive director for Sparrow Clubs USA.
Yeah.
And we've learned how Sparrow Clubs got its start, but what I'd like to know is, what does it look like from start to finish, from the time you take a sparrow, which is a child that has been diagnosed with a disease of some sort, and team them with a school? What does that look like?
Well, it's a pretty powerful experience. So there's three components to a Sparrow Club. You need a sparrow, which you've already mentioned, a child in medical need, age birth through 17 years old. And then you need a school, public or private, kindergarten through 12th grade, and then you need a club sponsor or a group of club sponsors. And it's a very powerful formula, and it's unique to anything else I've seen anywhere, because it allows us to focus on service. And one thing I want to just say right up front is that Sparrow Clubs USA is not a fundraising organization. We're a service learning organization. Fundraising does happen at the choice of schools, but we never as an organization ask schools to fundraise. We never ask students to fundraise, because we never want money, whether students have money or don't have money, we never want that to be the determining factor of making a difference. We don't want kids to think that. Service is something that levels the playing field. Every single kid, no matter their age, no matter who they are, where they come from, or what they have or don't have, they can make a choice to serve. And so we make service the currency of our program. So again, there's three components. There's a Sparrow child, there's the school, and there's a sponsor. So when we meet a Sparrow family, we have an interview with them, and we make sure that they understand the purpose of our program. We do not treat our Sparrow families as charity cases. We're not looking for pity. We're looking for empathy. We're trying to instill empathy and compassion in kids. And so when we meet with Sparrow families, we tell them, we want you to partner with us. We're going to see you as a partner. We're going to tell your child's story in a way that is true to them. They're courageous, they're brave, they're warriors. You guys are warriors as a family. Look what you're going through, and you're allowing us to tell those stories for the bigger picture, for the purpose of changing lives in schools. And when families hear that, they get excited. These families are going through the darkest times in their life, and just knowing, just thinking, the thought that what they're going through could actually make a difference for good in other people's lives, I think it gives them something to hope for.
Yeah.
So they partner with us, and so once we go through, the protocols and everything, we connect them with a school, and we go in and we do a Sparrow launch assembly. And typically that's how every Sparrow Club starts, is by an all-school launch assembly. Someone like myself gets up as a motivational speaker, and we present the Sparrow Club's program to the school, all in about 20 minutes. We talk about compassion, we challenge the kids, we tell them, the kids, that they matter just as they are in this moment, and then we introduce them to their Sparrow. And oftentimes the Sparrow is there at the assembly live with us, and we show a video that kind of in a nutshell tells the Sparrow's story in a way that kids can understand, and it's emotional. Part of what we do makes kids cry. It makes us cry
adults
when
cry.
we put it. That's part of our job, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, we bring the Sparrow out in front of the students, and we say, please give a round of applause for your new Sparrow. And it takes about 5 minutes for kids to calm down. Kids leap to their feet, they cheer, they cry, they chant, and again, it takes several minutes for them to calm down. But we have to get them to calm down because we have to issue the challenge. And so what we do after these kids have been compelled toward compassion for this child, they're literally ready to do anything they can to help this child. We say, you can help your Sparrow by going out and being kind to others in your community, by doing community service. And every time the question is, well, how is community service going to practically help my child? That's where the beauty of our club sponsors come in. Businesses, individuals throughout our communities that are so generous and believe in what we're doing that they provide the funds needed. And so the funds are already there, the money's already there. Kids, through their service, they unlock those funds for their Sparrow. So as kids go out and serve others, they're not only helping those that they're serving, but they know that in doing so, they are unlocking money for their Sparrow family. So at the end of the project, every school is challenged to do about 300 hours of service. And at the end of the project every year, we come back and we have about a 10-minute assembly, and we just celebrate the accomplishments of kids. We celebrate the amount of service that they've given to their community. We celebrate the amount of money that they earned for their Sparrow. And it's just compassion overload. It's wonderful.
Amazing. Is this a nationwide organization?
We're working on it. We're working on it. We're very strong in Oregon. There's some areas in Oregon that we're trying to fill the gaps. We have a presence in Arizona and a couple other places in a few other states, but primarily we're Pacific Northwest at the moment.
Okay. Did COVID impact you at all?
Oh my goodness,
Silly
COVID
question.
impacted us immensely. But you know what? We have a small creative team, but we do mighty things. And we had some blessings come through in some very surprising ways, and some grants opened up, and we were able to weather the storm. And the biggest challenge, though, was taking that in-person live assembly that I just told you about, face-to-face, and transferring that to a virtual mode and hoping and praying that we were going to have the same impact. And we were able to get through because the videos that we created, the program that we created, schools still used it, kids were still impacted, kids still found ways to go and do service. Sparrows were still helped. And I believe that the reason is just because the power of compassion. We as a staff, we kind of developed this motto when this was first happening, when things were shutting down. We said, you know what? No matter what, compassion is greater. And we believed it so strongly, and that started resonating with people we were telling, and we just made it our theme. We made a whole video. We made that the theme that we tell students, compassion is greater. It doesn't matter what you're going through right now. You can always choose compassion, and if you do, great things will come out of that.
So true. So true.
It showed to be true this year. I'm still amazed by it.
Before we started filming, Matt and I were talking behind the scenes. You got a call from a bank.
Yeah.
Tell me that story again.
Yeah, in the middle of this, we weren't able to do our fundraising events. Every year in every region we're in, we have some pretty big internal fundraising events. It basically it helps keep the lights on. It helps us continue to reach more families and impact more kids. And we took a big hit. And we were thinking, okay, no live events. What are we going to do? We're going to have to do some virtual events. Doesn't always amount to what we need. I get a call from a friend of mine that works at the bank, and he says, "Hey, Matt, I need the mailing address for Sparrow Clubs." And I thought that's kind of an odd request, and I said, "Well, why? What do you got? What do you got mailing coming to me?" And he said, "Well, this sweet little old lady, 101 years old, just passed away, and she left Sparrow Clubs in her will." And I was blown away. He said, "We have a check for over $44,000 for you, and we need to mail it to you." Wow. Jeanette, I was speechless. Yeah. In the time that we needed it the most, this blessing just was dropped in our lap.
Amazing.
I didn't know anything about this sweet little lady, but I found out later her name is Ruby Clark. No kids. Her husband had passed on about 12 years prior, and she had been a teacher for about 30 years, and I think that that's how she learned about Sparrow Clubs. I'm not even sure, but I'm so grateful for this sweet woman.
I bet so. What are some of the needs of Sparrow Clubs right now? Do you need volunteers, more donations? What do you need?
Well, we always need donations. That's just an ongoing thing. Every dollar that is donated is put to such good use. It goes to helping families in need, and it goes to serving kids. And like I said, we have a small team. We run a lean ship. We're great stewards with the donations that come in. Right now, currently, we need help in finding sparrows in any community. There's always enough, unfortunately, there's always kids in medical need that can become a sparrow, but we're not always connected to them. Yeah. And so we depend on relationships with doctors and pediatricians and social workers and really the general public to refer families to us. And so if there's anybody watching this that lives in an area where the Sparrow Clubs program is active, and you hear or know of a family that might be a potential sparrow family, please get in touch with us.
How do we get in touch?
Well, you can go to our website, www.sparrowclubs.org, and you can reach us there, or you can just call me directly. Okay. And my phone number, you can put it up on the screen, but it's 541-621-1126.
Okay. We have a little bit of time here. Just one story that stands out in your mind. Do you have a couple minutes?
Yes, I do. So, I mean, I have more than a couple minutes. I have years and years of storage, Jeanette. We have a couple minutes. I'll just tell you one that pops to my mind. There was a little girl named Madison, and she has a condition that causes tumors to grow all throughout her body, neurofibromatosis type 1. And we adopted her to a high school, Crater High School. And after the assembly, kids were great. Kids did what they always did at the assemblies. But afterwards, we were actually leaving, and I noticed this young man, a student, that was kind of hanging out on the outskirts of campus, just kind of watching us kind of load things up and everything. And he was wearing a hat pulled down and big jacket, and he was just kind of standing there. And I was kind of wondering what he was doing. And I think he was nervous to talk to us, but he mustered up the courage, and he came up to me and he said, "I was just in the assembly, and I can't stop thinking of this little girl, Madison. And as soon as the assembly was over, I drove down to the bank. I have a job, and I drove down to the bank, and I took out all the money I could. And all they would let me take out is $200, but I want to give this to her." And he puts $200 in my hand. And Jeanette, we don't ask kids to bring money. In fact, we tell kids it's about service. But I just sensed that there was something going on in the life of this man, this young man. And so I didn't tell him no. And I said, "Well, you know what I think would be better is I think it'd be better if you gave it directly to Madison and her mom." And he said, I would love to. Can I talk to her? And I said, "Of course you can." So I brought them over and made the introduction. And I still get tears thinking about it, but my eyes welled up with tears in that moment as I saw this young man present this $200 to this little girl and her mom, and the reaction that came from them. And the smile on this young man's face was ear to ear, and I knew that something just clicked, something changed in his heart. And I don't know where he is to this day, but I would be willing to bet that his life is different because of that moment. Yeah. And something that could compel a high school kid, a high school male, to do that is pretty pretty powerful. And he told me, he said, I would give her more. And I said, my friend, you don't have to do this. And he said, I can't think of any better way to spend this money. Please accept this. It just touches my heart to this day to even think about that.
We talk about the emotional support of the Sparrow and the family, but the empowering of the students, and that right there was very empowering for that young man.
Very empowering. And we have part of the program every year is when kids do service, they have to write out a reflection explaining what helping their Sparrow meant to them. And we do that to kind of gauge the impact, the changes happening in their hearts and minds. And Jeanette, we get thousands of these reflections every year, and they'll bring you to tears, and it's proof that this program is making a difference.
I wish we had time to read them.
I do too.
But we don't. Matt, give us your website again and your phone number.
Sparrowclubs.org. It's sparrowclubs with an S on the end, .org. Phone number is 541-621-1126.
Okay. Well, it has been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And the little motto that you came up again, the compassion.
Compassion is greater.
I love it.
Yeah.
Compassion is greater. And remember that as you go through in life. It is wonderful to have empathy for each other. We never know what people are going through. And so have compassion. This has been Better Life Today, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.